It used to be hard to find the exact auto parts you needed, and that meant spending a lot of time at swap meets. It's a different game now when you can order exactly what you need from eBay Motors. They have 122 million parts, so you can always find the right fitment. Spend less time searching and more time building with the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Elmo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. One, two, and three. Welcome to Elmo's World Podcast. This is Elmo Ador Jr., your host, and I have my friend Jim Hall here. Hey man, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, Elmo. Thanks for having me on. My name's Jim Hall. I'm one half of Atheist Edge. You can watch us on primarily YouTube and Facebook. Sometimes we upload on Facebook as well, mostly YouTube, but you can listen to us on your commutes through Stitcher, iTunes, FM Player, all those good things. And then we're on all the social medias. Just you can Google us and find Atheist Edge. And I've written 2 books. Most people believe in God. Can they all be wrong? That's written under my name. And then pulling back the green curtain, 666 things your religious leaders never taught you. And that's written under a fake name. So look for Stephanie Chase. That was to avoid possible violence because I'm very critical of Islam in the book, but I don't care anymore. Nice. So come at me, bro. Yeah, that's my plugs. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Okay. Well, I would like to ask you about by the way, the links are in the description if you're interested in the Atheist Edge and everything that Jim is all about. Okay, so Jim, I want to ask you, why are you an atheist, bro? Why not just accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior and get it done with? Just why focus on this part of your life? Why?
Well, I mean, your default was Jesus. I know you're speaking as your.
Yeah, I was just kidding.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but accepting Jesus, I mean, that's one religion. There's 300 active religions on the planet, and even though Christianity, albeit, is the most popular religion on the planet, but is the most we going to do an ad populum just because it's the most popular? Is that by default the automatic going to be the one that we are going to gravitate to? I mean, wow. And then we get into Pascal's wager. Why, let's pretend there is some evidence for a religion. Why would I necessarily want to pick Christianity? Mm-hmm. Bottom line is, Elmo, I've been an atheist my whole life. I'm a cradle atheist. I've never believed. I've never been baptized. I've never prayed once in my life. Wow. Not once. People find that hard to believe, but I've never prayed ever in my life. Yeah. So if I thought that there was evidence out there that rose to my criteria, that met my threshold for acceptance of the philosophy, then yeah, I'd be on my knees repenting my ass off immediately. It's just I have not seen that evidence yet.
Okay.
And it's nothing against them. It's nothing against any religion. It's just they have fallen short convincing me or motivating me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
earlier, before we went live,
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Please do.
Before we went on air, you wanted me to give you just a rundown of my basic worldview, and I said, well, right there, I kind of have a problem with the word worldview.
Mm-hmm.
So, the best way to describe this is, in my estimation, now I'm not a philosopher, but it seems like when someone says, what's your worldview? Or according to my worldview, you're basically saying the way I see the world, right? Is that a good synonym for worldview?
Yeah.
Well, I think there is only one way to see the world. It might not be the way I'm seeing it. I would like to remain unbiased and say that maybe the way I view the world is not the most objective way, but I think there is an objective way to see the world. It might not be how I see it, but I think the way to see the world is theoretically objective in nature. So anytime you slap worldview onto your ideology, you're almost admitting that you don't see the world objectively, like it's skewed in some sense. And although I might I might not see the world 100% objectively, but I'd like to think that I'm always working towards that goal.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you say according to my worldview, to me, it sounds like that's not how I was raised, or I was raised Catholic, for instance. What do you mean raised Catholic? Is that someone cramming their biases and values into your brain? It sounds like indoctrination. It sounds like brainwashing. I was raised Catholic. How about I was just raised? I was raised in a loving household and allowed to think, and taught X, Y, and Z, and allowed to pick what I wanted to believe. Yeah, I just went off on a tangent, didn't I?
Yeah, no.
I hope someone can kind of parse that out.
You're going on a tangent if it's like 30 minutes, but if that was it, that's okay, man. But anyways, I see your point. You're right. Because saying you have a worldview is not just a small thing, because you're actually claiming knowledge on like what the nature of reality is, right? And you said you're not that much into philosophy, but I'm sure that in your show you talked about philosophy many times, and it's unavoidable in these kinds of conversations. And I wanted to ask.
Oh yeah, I've noticed you've had. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is that you're someone who acts in every part of your life. You have decisions. You make calculated decisions based on rational arguments and reasons, right? So when you make reasoning, how do you form your arguments? Or because, like, for example, I'm pro-abortion, or I'm not saying you are, but if you are pro-abortion, like, how do you make a judgment on that in your thought process? Can I ask you about that?
Well, specifically with that issue, is just I consider myself left of center. I refer to myself as a centrist. I voted for the Democratic Party straight down the ticket this time around. But first thing is, and this goes back to worldview too. Look at what you said, how do I go about
Thinking.
Formulating those?
Yeah,
First off,
thinking.
if I'm talking to somebody and we're discussing it, the number one thing you have to do, and I noticed you've had Otangelo Grasso on your show, you've had Tom Jump on your show, so you've heard this before. You have to agree on definitions. So your definition of worldview, say, and my definition of worldview might not jive up. One of us might have to give some ground just to keep the discussion going.
I'm granting you worldview, man. Yeah, whatever how you define it, I'll roll with it. But I was just asking you, like,
yeah, exactly.
How do you
that's
go
how the
about
discussion.
your thought process?
That's how the discussion continues.
Yeah. Okay. But
Right.
how?
Okay. Let's go to your example, abortion. Okay. before I start, because it's a kind of a complicated explanation and how I would go about talking about that subject with somebody. First off, one clear sign that you might be indoctrinated, that you might be swayed by outside forces and not thinking independently, is if you side, let's say the Democrat Party or Republican Party, just pick one. If all your values exactly 100% line up with a particular political party, that is a good sign that maybe you're being indoctrinated or you're being swayed. I mean, what are the odds that your personal values line up exactly with a major political party? If they don't deviate at all, zero, you know that you're being influenced by an outside source. I'm very wary of someone who's right down every issue. And that's liberals on my side too. If they're right down, if none of their values deviate from the DNC talking points and the mission statement on the web page, that there's a problem there. It just statistically cannot be that way.
Okay.
For instance, your abortion issue. If I'm going to talk to someone about that, first thing we need to do is agree on definitions.
Sense. You have to make sense with each other.
Well, yes, and to make sense, we have to agree on definitions. Like,
what is definitions?
We have to get in the weeds. We have to get down in the minutia. And I don't want to have an abortion debate. I'm just showing you how I would go about this. But we have to agree on terms like conception. Conception might be, you might automatically assume that we both have the same definition of conception. Well, it might not be. So let's make sure we have the right definition. Let's define fetus. Let's define blastula. Let's define cells. Let's define organism. Let's define birth, and just go through the entire process of gestation from day 1 to week 41 or whatever it is, right?
Okay. I get your point. So it seems to me that what you're saying is like, hey, dude, like you have your definitions of on the topic of abortion, right? Like, but I have different ones. For example, what when you talk about conception and what a fetus is and what a human is and human rights and all that, you have different definitions. Okay, so can I ask you then, how do you define, let's say, morality? I think that's something that we could both agree on, that there is some sort of moral framework even in your life, right? You're someone who acts as if there is a moral structure, and your every choice you make should be within this structure, at least in how you act, not in something that is like out there, like transcendent morality. I'm not saying you have that. I'm just saying that you act as if there are rules. Would you agree on that?
Depends on if they're objective or subjective. Of
course, I don't care if it's objective or subjective. I'm just saying, like, you're a person who acts as if there are rules in your life, and you're not going to cross these rules. Like, for example, murder or like rape. You're not someone to do that. It's not within your moral framework. Right. And there's a big difference between my personal code of ethics ask them about
and an
your
objective
personal code of ethics. I don't care about an objective morality, man. I'm not gonna impose that on you. That you're saying that you have one. I'm just asking, how do you form your personal ethics? Because this is about what you believe.
Mine's real simple. And it'll tie back into abortion later on, you'll see, and it'll tie into the reason I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah, okay.
So, all right. So, let me go right back to abortion, and this will help clarify my moral framework. I think that aborting a fetus after 23 weeks of gestation, is wrong. Now, I say that, and I don't necessarily think I'm not saying that maybe it should be legislated to be illegal after 23 weeks, although I am kind of leaning that direction. And someone hearing this, oh, well, you're a male, you shouldn't be making the rules about my body. I understand that. But my moral framework, and the reason I don't eat animals, the reason I don't want a 24-week fetus that has a fully functioning central nervous system and a beating heart to feel pain is the same reason I don't want a factory farmed chicken to feel pain when it gets dropped in a scalding boiling water alive. You know, it's the same reason. So, and you've heard probably really famous people kind of echoing the same thing, and I've drawn from other sources, but I think I've developed this myself.
So what are the axioms in your personal ethics, right? Like, for example, where do you define like what is good or what is bad? Okay, not good or bad. What is like within the field of wants that or events that you prefer rather than what you don't prefer, right? So you said that you don't prefer animals to have harm or that or go in with or suffer. So it's
not what I
principle?
prefer, it's what is. That can be objectively measured. Suffering and well-being can be objectively measured. And if someone wants to argue that with me, I think I have a very persuasive argument.
Okay, please go ahead. I would love to hear it.
Oh, I mean,
yeah,
we can go down
ahead.
that. But,
yeah, I want to go down that route.
Okay. You could look at the total. I mean, it would be a huge mathematical undertaking to quantify objectively all suffering, and I'm just saying it is theoretically possible. You know, there could be some sort of quantum microprocessor that could work it out. Okay, but I'm just saying it would be a huge undertaking. Okay. But I'm just saying that total, not just human, total suffering. That's all animals, not just Homo sapiens.
I have a question, right?
Yeah.
Is suffering, you know, what you're saying about like well-being and happiness, you know, we that's the topic we're talking about. Is suffering limited to what you can feel in as pain? Is it just pain, or is there something more to just physical pain from suffering?
Suffering might go beyond that. Physical pain is just the nerve endings, but there's emotional pain that can be tied to nerve endings, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
So I'm confused here, right? Because when you said that there is an objective way to measure suffering. You said that we could quantify it whatever
in
way.
Theory, yes.
In theory. But in order to quantify something that in order for you to consider it as a whole, each individual part has to have a sort of uniformity, at least in the definition, right? So how do you define suffering? Because you say that it's more than just physical pain. So what is suffering? On a very mechanistic basal
value.
How you define
suffering,
it in your moral system?
Right.
How do you define suffering in your moral system?
Well, I'm an imperfect person with a 3.5 pound wet wired little hard drive. It's not very good. You know, I'm just one person making estimations of what total
that doesn't matter
is.
though, right?
Right.
I think
I'm telling you in theory, yeah.
But in your model, you know, that you think is right, and you're acting on this model every day to the point that you chose not to eat meat, you know, and support all these abortion more than just 2 weeks, you know, in the stomach of a pregnant woman. So how do you define suffering?
On a very basic level, suffering. In my estimation, suffering
so you might
is
be wrong
anything
in your
that triggers the pain. I might not be complete. I know what I'm saying is true. I think there might be more to it than this, but that's why I'm saying on a very basal level, suffering is anything that triggers pain responses in a
The
body.
physical body. Okay, so
Yeah, that we could
so
start there.
is anything?
We can start with physical pain.
So is emotional pain? You know, that doesn't cause any physical trigger in the body. So is that suffering?
Well, from my
In the model that you use, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even emotional suffering can cause a physical response.
Well, but not all. But not all.
Deep depression, for instance, depression, for instance, can weaken your immunity. It can make you sickly. So even emotional pain has a physical effect.
Yeah, but the question is like, what is it? Like, what is suffering? It's not what emotional pain can cause. It's what pain is, and you just define pain as something purely physical. So,
although it's probably, it's most almost definitely likely to be more than this. Let's just pin it down for this discussion to physical pain.
Okay.
Any that which causes physical pain.
Okay.
To my point on morality.
Yeah.
I've said this on other shows, and I've probably beat it to death, but I'll just give you a quick synopsis. There are 6 words that I don't use when I'm discussing a morality with somebody, whether it's a debate or a discussion.
Yeah.
The 6 words are good, bad, right, wrong, should, and ought.
Why?
I just don't say those 6 words.
Why?
Because that implies subjectivity.
Why?
Anytime I use any of those 6 words, right, wrong, good, evil, should, and ought, I'm telling you what I'm speaking from authority, and I'm trying to impose my morality on you.
What do you mean?
And I don't want to do that. That's why I've never told anyone they shouldn't eat meat. I'm not one of those militant vegetarians that's going to try to change the world. You do you have the right to eat meat. You go for it. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to get you to not do it.
Well, okay, no, but I guess no one's saying that about you, man. But okay, cool. But I want to ask you, in your model of morality, right? Are you able to choose, like, for example, you can change a certain event based on your decision making. For example, can you not eat meat? Can you eat meat and not eat meat in your moral framework?
Isn't that the law of non-contradiction? You can't do both, right?
Yeah, okay, but what I mean
you
is,
either eat meat or you do not eat meat.
Is there a choice there? That's my question.
Yes, I have made a choice to not eat meat. I physically can eat meat right now.
Why did you make a choice?
To limit suffering.
But why?
And this is where I'm
You're not going to answer this question?
I'm consciously trying not to use the word right and wrong,
but
should
I'm
not.
not telling you to. I'm just asking you why you would choose to limit suffering.
I have subjectively made a decision to cause the least amount of suffering in the world.
So it's still subjective. Like it's subjective as right, wrong, ought, should.
Yeah. Okay. I just try to avoid saying that because I don't want to impose my morality on others. But if I'm thinking to myself, I think it's wrong based on my, and these are self-imposed code of conduct on myself.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna push it back on you on that anymore.
But in every society we live in your country, in my country,
right? We all have our moral compasses.
Right. Legislation. Every piece of criminal legislation is morality based.
Yeah.
It's subjective morality, where a collective gets together and says, we as a collective agree that this is wrong and this is right and this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of legislators impose that legislation based on what they believe to be morality that is set in stone, divine command, a creator wrote it down in a book and I'm going to follow that. But still, it's them imposing that legislation.
True.
It's, still
subjective,
if they want to believe
it's based on
if they want to believe they got it from Yeah, if they want to believe they got it from somewhere higher, that's okay. They're still the ones putting the laws on the paper.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna push back on that. You said that your foundations for your morality is yourself. It's subjective. It's based on your personal preference. Okay, I don't mind. Okay, so in terms of, like, for example, free will, do you think that you have a choice? Because, like, we as humans, we actively decide every day, right? We act as if, and we think as if we are choosing the future events coming in our lives within our power. Do you think that way too, or do you think that we're all determined and whatnot?
Before I answer that, Elmo, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Neuroscientists like Sam Harris have said that there is no free will at all, because once you have made an action, you think that you were the designer of that action, that you initiated that action, but actually you did it subconsciously microseconds before you decided to do it. So every action, picking up a pen or taking a sip of water, you think you decided to do that, but based on a lot of neuroscientists, they say that your brain thought of it before you were even conscious of taking that action. That every action you make in this world is out of your control.
Yeah. So, but do you believe
So,
that?
yeah, I'm asking. Well, here's the deal. I don't.
You don't believe that?
Oh, there's a difference between resting on an ad populum argument, saying, it's everyone, if you're resting on the consensus of experts, I don't believe that to be a logical fallacy. If you're leaning on, like COVID, I rely heavily on what the CDC guidelines are.
Yeah.
They're the experts. I don't believe that to be a fallacy. If neuroscientists are saying free will is an illusion, we have to look at it. We have to. You don't have to throw all your chips, on that side of the table.
Okay, I see your point here. I
yeah.
wanna ask you, right? So why? You may trust Sam Harris or the neuroscience community, or what they're saying about free will. Okay, fine. I'm not gonna push back on it. But the position you're taking is simply that you believe what they say, which is that free will is an illusion, right?
I tend to look at it very closely. I don't know if I'm a layman. I have
no
zero
worries, man.
training
I'm not
in
gonna
it.
put pressure on you in that. But I just ask you, like, in every day of your life,
it seems plausible. And I think the reason, if it is true, I think the reason there would be a lot of pushback by the.
I'm not pushing back, but okay. We were talking about free will, right? So, do you act as if you have free will every day? And if you actually trust those scientists, the neuroscientists, about what they say about free will, how does it change how you act or you think, your thought process?
I think I lean towards, neuroscience is in its infancy. I think there's tons more to be learned about the subject. We're going to learn more. As of right now, I tend to think that they're on the right track, probably. That being said, like I said earlier, you really can't live your life that way. Let me draw a parallel. There are physicists in the community, and it is not a minority. It's still a minority opinion, but it's a valid opinion that there is a decent chance that our reality is a simulation, right? It is fringe, but it's building support, and there are many active physicists that think that it is possible. that it is very possible. If
Mm.
that were the case, if we were to find out that we're in a simulation, that would blow our minds the same as if we thought we didn't have free will. It would be the same. We have to, I mean, for us to function, we have to live our lives as though it isn't that way, though. If
Mhm.
we knew we were in a simulation, I mean, mass suicides, who knows? I mean, it would just be chaos. If we didn't think we had free will, if we had good evidence that that Sam Harris and the like are right, and we don't have free will, and our bodies are we're just along for the roller coaster ride, there would be major problems. We really, as a society, couldn't live that way. So, although I think that neuroscientists are on the right track, I think it's important to maybe live your life as though, keep that in the back of your head. Hey, there's the reality. Let's,
Let's just
you
ignore
have
the
to
facts for now.
not really ignore them, just kind of
Put them at the
live
back.
your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you explain it, Elmo? I mean,
Yeah. Oh, I think
it's different than,
I think
it's different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right about that, my friend. But I in terms of what the scientists think, they say that your everything you do is determined, but there are certain physicists who propose the indeterminism, right? Where in the entropy of quantum mechanics, and our brain seems to be a buffer for that and the probability seems to produce like an entropy and so much chaos that it becomes something that is indeterministic. That would be a position one could take, but others could believe in compatibilism. Yeah, I don't know how to say that, but it means simply that free will and a deterministic universe can coincide with each other. It's I guess we have to think about that too, and put them still
Yeah.
in consideration. But if
I
I
don't,
did, if I did realize that all my acts are determined, you're right. There will come a point in my life where just I don't actually have a choice. So what am I doing here? If I do kill myself, I've been destined to do that anyways. So it's it's a really we humans would not be ready for such a fact, right? And we are built for decision making, or at least not built
mhm.
in how you would define, but in how we evolved. We have to live as if we are under our own autonomy, and that's why, like, in countries like Korea, you can see, like, North Korea, like, you can see, like, people wishing for more than just like a mechanistic and robotic society where don't have freedom and individuality. It's just in the human spirit. And you're right, but I'm still interested in your thought process every day. So when you say that, we could just put that thought in the back of our minds that we might be determined, you you might agree with the neuroscientist. So, but how do you act and decide things every day, knowing that that could be the case? Like,
Um,
is it something you
yeah,
just? I won't use ignore, because like there are negative connotations to that. Maybe just still in consideration, or I don't know, maybe putting a pin on it. how
yeah.
how would you put?
Well,
Yeah,
the fact that it's still budding and it's still in its infancy
yeah,
is probably good for us. Future generations, who knows, 1,000 years from now, if they have a uh, if there's a if the science is way more developed at that time,
mm,
and the evidence is just conclusive at that point,
mm,
it would be I fear for the future. I don't
yeah.
know, but
But what
right
I
now
guess, yeah.
it's easy to shelf because it's it's so speculative. Later on, it might not be. Who knows? That might be a huge problem for humanity. But once the artificial general intelligence singularity hits, all bets are off anyway, and so we will be at its mercy.
Yeah, it just started raining, but
Oh,
anyways, so I want to ask you about your idea of, let's say, the meaning of life. How does an atheist, you know, live, or at least put meaning in his actions, in his life, in his family? How?
my every career choice I've made has been in the pursuit of increasing total well-being, and if that means giving of myself as a sacrifice to uh, enhance the well-being of others, that's what I've been doing since I was a very young person. Um, and it ties into every what you call worldview, increasing well-being, while at the same time, you can increase well-being all day, but you have to actively be trying to decrease suffering as well. It's a symbiotic relationship. So, and if there's anything that I could place on my life as a meaning, it would be the pursuit of increasing well-being, and not just for me. In fact, lesser for me and more for everyone around me. Um, I feel that religion as a whole is harmful to society in many ways. Number one, the first and foremost reason is it retards human progress. Forget about all the canonical commandments and scriptures that out and out tell you to commit atrocities. Let's forget about those. Just put those away for now. Just the fact that a religion exists and it's relying on outdated methodology is um, it retards human progress. People that are relying on 2,000 or year old books, or 5,000-year-old books, or 600-year-old books, depending on which of the three great desert monotheisms you want to believe in, it's still outdated information when people didn't understand that germs cause disease, or that uh, you know um, illnesses were not because of demons. It's outdated ideology. So at best, religion retards human progress. We could have gotten, if it weren't for, there was 1,000-year stretch there where theology ruled the earth. Thank goodness it's gone. Thank goodness it was replaced by the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment. And now I feel that we're, you know, on a quick tangent, I feel that maybe we're dipping back into a new dark ages now. It feels like we're slipping into one, and that would be very unfortunate. But religion is always suppressing human intellect and human progress. And I'm not just talking scientific progress, I'm talking human progress as a whole. Like us collectively, where do we want to be in 1,000 years? Well, whatever that is, religion is retarding that. It is suppressing that. It's keeping it from its fruition. Well, I'll say one good thing about it. It underwent a reformation that helped it improved, and in modern times, it is going through new reformations. In our midst as we speak in real time. Gay marriage. The Pope. Whether or not you're a Catholic, you have to admit that Catholicism was, the first Christianity prior to Protestantism. So that's the roots of Christianity. That was the original Christian church. Peter was the first Pope. All right. When you have a Pope saying that his progressive views on homosexuality, or gay marriage, or, just Pope Francis is getting himself, he's driving the Vatican up the wall right now, which I think is a great thing. He's pulling Catholicism and Christianity with it into the 21st century, which I think as long as we do have a Pope, we do need more like Francis. And I hope his successor is just as progressive. So in Christianity's defense, it went through a reformation. It is, all things considered, as far as religions go, it's not as harmful as others. And as soon as I even mention a harmful religion, where we all know which one I'm thinking of in particular. And the one I'm thinking of in particular has not gone through a reformation. It doesn't have structured leadership. It has imams scattered all over the earth that are giving conflicting fatwas and fighting with each other and in groups and division in and among itself. Its denominations hate each other more than they hate the outsiders. You don't see that in other religions. Okay, working on my second book. I had never even looked at Islam too much. I mean, living in the United States, since we've had this YouTube channel, we've of course concentrated on the problem at hand. And since the vast majority of Americans are Christian, that was the focus. That was our focus. But writing this book, we stepped back and looked at it from 30,000 feet. We looked at all religions. We even gave, even Judaism and Hinduism were fair game for this book. So I had to read the Quran. You speak Arabic, I believe, Elmo. I do not. So I technically did not read the Quran, because the only way the Quran can actually be read correctly is if you speak Arabic. But I did pick the 4 best translations and use that to read the Quran and every hadith. Now, many hadith are shared by all the Sunnis, the Shias, all the denominations. Others are specific to one or the other, so I read all the hadith, especially the ones that applied to everybody. What I found was direct commands towards violence. That right there does not line up with my personal code. If my code involves increasing well-being and decreasing suffering, it is in direct opposition to any type of ideology out there that commands you to commit violence. And if anyone wants to challenge me, and I've had people saying, well, Islam is a religion of peace and here's why, and just look at the word. No, I can refute every one of those one by one with ease. There is no way anybody can say that it is not an oppressive, subjugating, violent religion. And it is more so than probably any other religion on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I mean, just look at how people that follow Islam, immigrants that come to a country that is not majority Islam, correct? They come there with their hat in their hands, very meek, very humble. We just want to, we want to live out our lives, and we want to believe what we want. And they find countries that are very accepting of this. It has been, I can cite numerous examples where countries that allow Islam to grow in their country, it is a detriment to that country. If you come from an intolerant, theocratic, oppressive country, and you come to it, you know what? I'm going to stop this tangent, because I'm probably going to get off into something I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
There is a thing called creeping Sharia.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying most people that follow Islam might not necessarily follow Sharia. All Sharia means is the law. There are those in Christianity. I would say the majority of Christians do not follow everything in the Bible. The majority of Jews don't follow everything in the Torah. and the majority of Muslims do not follow all the commands in the Quran. Thank goodness. There was a 2013, the Pew poll. I think something like 24 majority Muslim countries were polled. I could send it to you after our talk, Elmo, but it was an eye opener. You would, of course, a very small sliver of people who follow Islam are inclined to actually commit violence in the name of Islam. But when you look at the percentage of people, enablers and supporters, and people that believe a death penalty should be prescribed for people who commit adultery, death penalty for adultery, really? And when you look at many of these countries, over 50% of the population, death penalty for homosexuality, death penalty for apostasy. It says right in the Quran. We all know what the penalty is in the Quran for once following Muhammad and then leaving. We all know what that penalty is. That right there should be enough of an indictment on it. That's why I avoid those 6 words, Elmo. Would, should, ought, right, wrong, good, and evil. I don't think you can go back and play this again and see if I said any of those 6 words. If I did, I apologize. I'm trying to state things as objectively, although I'm bouncing that ideology off of my own ideology. I haven't judged it. I'm only stating facts. This is what's in the Quran. This is what's in the Bible. This is what it commands you to do. As long as you stick to the facts, I can say many of the things in the modern in the holy books don't line up with my ideology. I never said that was wrong. For me to commit some of the acts that are commanded in these holy books, for me to carry those out would be wrong for me, and that's would. That's the same as should. So, but this is me personally. I'm not dictating that. If you want to be a Muslim, if you want to be a Christian, if you want to be a Jew or a Hindu, you go for it. You have at it. If you want to carry out, if you want to take a literal interpretation of your book, do that too. If you want to carry out a violent act against someone else, especially, I'm thinking particularly me, my loved ones, or my friends or family, then we have problems. And I'm not going to say should, you can commit violence if you want. You are capable of committing violence. But when you do, there's going to be consequences. When I went to Iraq, there were terrorists that I made room temperature, and I regret none of them. These are people that I know, every one of them were vetted, were threats to humanity. And by ending their lives, I know I increased total well-being on the planet. Yeah. I feel like we just got started. I understand we had some technical issues, battling some challenges. It's raining there and the Wi-Fi connection, but yeah, it's great to be on. Yeah, I feel like we just got started. This is good talk. So earlier I said I'm one half of Atheist Edge. So my co-host is Courtney Stewart. She's a co-host here on Atheist Edge. She's also a co-host on In Time with Nicholas Suter. If you go and check out In Time, she's over there as well. So you can look for Atheist Edge. Just Google it. We're on YouTube primarily. And if you stop by and maybe consider subscribing and leaving a comment or two and letting us know how you like the show. As far as this talk went, I hesitate to talk about morality because, well, it just gets beat to death, and there are so many smarter people than me that can talk about it, and Tom Jump, I spoke about him earlier. I mean, that kid, we need so many more like him in the community that really can look at it, get down deep into some of these philosophical issues. I like using a Socratic method mostly when I'm talking to people, whether I agree with them or not. If it's a debate or a discussion, Socratic method when we agree on definitions, when we both are candid and intellectually honest and come at a discussion ready to change our own mind. Every time I talk, I'm ready to change my mind. I've changed my mind 4 or 5 times just this calendar year on major issues. If you're not ready to do that, you shouldn't be having a discussion. If you come in closed-minded, shut down, and refuse to change your mind, and you're there to win a debate, it's not productive. I don't feel like talking to somebody like that.
So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
University of Maryland Global Campus has more than 20 years' experience providing affordable online education to military service members and working adults. Offering low tuition, no-cost digital resources replacing most textbooks, scholarships for those who qualify, and more. Learn more at umgc.edu/podcast.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.